Good morning, everyone. It's not quite 11, so we'll wait a few more minutes. Happy Monday. While we're waiting for everyone to get here, I am going to just finish putting these last few stitches in our little turkey's crop here. I was hoping to have this done before today's live, but it has been very busy here and I just haven't had time. Okay, good morning, everyone. It's just about 11 o'clock, or perhaps it's exactly 11. I can't quite see the clock from here, but just about 11 o'clock Monday morning, October 25th. Oh my heavens, I never know what day of the week it is. Anyways, I hope everyone had a great weekend. Thank you again for allowing me time to get away and finish this live stitching session after a few days break. We might actually not finish it today. We're going to start to finish it today, but I was going to, as you can see, I stitched on the wattle and the crop, and I was going to go ahead and do this leaf, but then I decided, remember we decided in the last video that this one was a little bit too tiny, so I made it a little bit bigger. It's not a great deal bigger, but it's bigger. And I thought I would do a little bit of a decorative stem stitch through here. So I wanted to do that with all of you, and then we'll stitch the leaf on. I was going to stitch the leaf on first, but then I decided that I might want to wait. Sometimes your stem stitch doesn't exactly end up where you think it's going to. So I'll wait and I'll stitch the leaf on after I get the stem stitch in place, and it should work out quite nicely. So I'm going to get started. Everything else is done. I'm going to just put this down a little bit. I've got my needle threaded with six strands of floss. I'll wax it just a tiny bit. Now the 6 strands will create a nice thick stem, which especially on this background, you want it to be thick enough where it's going to stand out enough. So I thought that I would perhaps start down here, put in a little bit of a loop, and then go over to here. That is my plan anyways. Let's hope it works out. Remember, with the stem stitch, you're going to work from left to right. Your first stitch you take, you're going to come up halfway between where you came out and where you went in, if that makes sense, and keep your loop below your needle. With the second stitch, you're just going to go down in and come back out the previous hole. It's hard when that wax is still a little bit cold on there. Doesn't want to pull through the wool so easily. Just be careful doing that because you don't want to shred your wool. Now here in this actual, where you're actually creating a stem rather than, you know, where we did here and farther down on the pocket, they were small stitches. You can go a little bit larger here. Not too large because I still want to get a nice curve. I didn't make a path, so I just am gonna have to just keep track of the direction I want to go in. Again, Facebook isn't letting me see if anyone is even watching today. Oh, what was that? I don't know what happened. When I first started doing the Facebook Lives, I could see all the viewers. It told me how many people were watching. It showed me who was watching. Now it just says live and nothing else. And I know that people are watching because when I'm done the videos, there's all sorts of comments and questions I missed. All right, let's see. I'm gonna have to loop it up here. I wanna make sure that I keep some roundness in, so I have to start turning. I'll take some smaller stitches as I'm making the loop. Oops, oh my goodness. Sorry about that. All right, so I think I want it to go there and then over to there, so. Pumpkin stems and tendrils are always very loopy, so I thought this would be cute. Hopefully not too whimsical. I always struggle with keeping my work primitive and not making it too whimsical. Sometimes My things can get a little bit whimsical when I don't necessarily want them to be. All right. As you can see, I'm going to go right on top of this line that's already there, because of course, if it was an actual tendril that went up and curled back, that's how it would be. So that's what you want to do. Then I'll start going back this way. I can hardly believe that October is nearing the end. It seems like this month absolutely flew by. The last couple of months, it seems like that. And these are my favorite months of the year. November and December are my favorite months of the year. I love October. Any month that ends in B-E-R, I love. But anyways, I really particularly love November and December. So I don't want those to be rushed on by. I really hope time slows down a little bit. Hopefully you can see this, because that looks really nice. I thought about, but as you can see, I think I am going to end up moving my leaf up a little. So it's a good thing that I did not stitch my leaf down. I mean, I could make it go to there, but I think it's going to look better if I move it up a little bit. But I'm hoping the hecticness of life slows down just a smidge so we can savor November and December and all the wonderfulness that comes along with it. It always seems to be that way. Remember when you were a child and life seemed to go by so slowly, days lasted forever, and when you get older, it just all passes by so very quickly. All right, I'm going to unpin this so I can decide where I want it to be. I don't know if I should have it be up, down. I think up, right about there. I like it. Oh, now I can see everyone. Hello, Natalie, Sue, Bonnie. Hello to anyone else that might be there that I don't see. Oops. I hope everyone is doing well. All right, so I'm going to end this. Maybe I'll take one more stitch. I could go on with the stem stitch forever. I love stitching it, and I just love how it looks. I think it would be neat if I swirled all the way down and went all over her with a stem stitch, but we won't do that. End it, and my goodness, between all of the little stem stitches and all of the stitches that we put in here, my back is a mess. The back of my piece is a mess. So I am very glad. Let me make sure that's down, pulled nice and tight. Very glad that we are putting a back on here. All right, so now I'm going to grab my other needle and 2 strands of floss. Just to stitch the leaf down, our final element in this piece. Bonnie's asking if I always work on the table or just the TV or just here for filming. I do both. I tend to work at the table more often than not. I would prefer to sit in my comfortable chair and maybe watch a movie while I'm working, but I find my stitches don't come out as evenly if I do that. So I tend to sit at the table, which I'm working in our dining room right now, and it's my favorite room of the house. And often we will put comfortable chairs in here at the table, the high back tavern type chairs. We'll put them one for both Mark and I, and one for each of us, I was trying to say. And yeah, I like that. And we'll sit in here a lot. We'll read. The wood stove is always in this room, also in this room. Of course, it's always in here. Then we don't move the wood stove around the house. The wood stove is in the dining room, and it's the center room of our house. There's a huge bay window, so we really like this room. So we'll often put tavern chairs, and we actually call it the tavern when we do that. Tavern chairs in here, and just sit in here on a regular basis. So I tend to stitch in here more easily. But if I do sit in my comfortable chair and watch a movie and stitch, I will put a pillow, a pretty full pillow, on my lap and lay my work across it, because it seems like I can't just hold it in my hand. I have to have a flat surface to work on. Now, if I was doing something like punch needle, and of course rug hooking, I absolutely could not sit at the table. Sorry that I was shaking the whole table. I try not to do that, but I struggle with it. We'd probably have less shaking if I sat somewhere else, but we wouldn't be able to do the close-ups. And of course, I didn't say anything, but you could see that I glued this little leaf down. The small elements, the glue really helps. I never thought I would be a glue user with my wool applique, but oh my gosh, for the small elements, the glue is a lifesaver. When I did the wattle and crop, it made all the difference. And as you can see, or maybe you can't, but I have my very much used and roughed up cutting mat under here, because I'm going to trim this down afterwards so we can start putting the back on. In case you guys can hear that background noise and are wondering what it is, Oliver is laying near me and he is snoring. Breathing quite heavy and snoring, and I think he might be dreaming. I started out, when I enlarged this leaf to begin with, I started out making it quite large. I've cut it down 3 times actually. It was quite large, and I thought that would look sort of neat, but it didn't. It just looked misproportioned. So I trimmed it down, then I trimmed it down again, and actually just this morning before I started the video, I trimmed it down even smaller. And I sort of thought maybe I might have wanted to make it even a little bit smaller, but that would have been back to the original size that I struggled with. So this size seemed to work out. Which I don't know why the leaf gave me such trouble, because there are elements in this piece that are thinner than this piece, but the leaf seemed to really hassle me when it was smaller, so I just went ahead and made it a bit bigger. And when you think about it, pumpkin leaves are quite large. The leaves of a pumpkin are large. I should have waxed this thread. Hopefully we can get through it without having some snags and knots. And I just realized my fingernails are a mess. Please excuse that. I'm not really a nail person, so I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to my fingernails most of the time, but I do try to make sure they at least look somewhat presentable when I'm having them be shown on camera, and I didn't even give it a thought today. I would love to be able to have nice nails all trimmed up and painted, but that just doesn't happen for me. All right, our last stitch, or the last stitch I should say. You may not be to this point. I like it. Sorry for the noise here. I gotta push my chair out. I think she came out quite lovely. All right, let me pick this stuff up. Set my needles aside, my threads aside for a moment. Move things so I can cut this. Okay, we are ready to do the background. Now I've decided to do just a plain black background. This is gunmetal from Blackberry Primitives, which when I look at the two together, I feel like they kind of don't match, but it's not going to show. This is going to be completely on the back, and the way I'm going to do it is they're going to butt up against each other, and I'm just going to stitch along the edges so you won't see them together. So as I mentioned in the beginning and all of this, this finished size is 10 by 12. So I'm going to trim this down. All right, so I don't know why that corner looks a little bit rounded. Hopefully that trims off. Good, yes it will. Okay. I could have just ripped this, but I want less fraying. It's hard for me to do this at this angle with the camera here. Sorry if I seem like I'm moving it 7,000 different ways, but usually I hover over things. It's making it a little bit hard to do that with the camera here. All right, and we want 10. Right, because I did 12 the other way. Yes, okay. Want to make sure I'm doing it right, that I don't end up with a bizarre size that I did not intend to have. All right. Let me remeasure. 12. My word. By 10. I really should have brought out my smaller ruler. All right, now let's do it with this gal without having her. Typically, this would be me. I'd end up with, you know, this close over here and this much over here. So I'm going to try to avoid that. Let's see. I'm going to fold this in half. Center the center, right in the center. Excuse me. All right, and we decided if I were not on camera, I would probably take a bit more time with this, but let's see. That's our center. If we lay it like that, where's our leaf gonna end? Like, that's not quite, this doesn't look even. All right, let me fix this here. Okay, I think we're good. When I lay it aside, it still looks wrong, but I always feel like I see an angle when there isn't one. And then when there is an angle to something, I don't notice it. All right, there. I think that's about good for that. Let me lift it up so you guys can actually see what I'm doing here, which I'm sure you all know how to figure this out, but I feel like my piece is a little bit wonky in its size, but let's see. All right, so we want 12 inches this way. But I want to just make sure that I'm going to have that 12 be where I want it to be. And it looks like this. Try to make it straight. There's our 12. Now we need our 10. This is where the trouble comes in. I just want her to be even, so I'm just making sure that that looks about right to me. Okay. Ooh, she looks good, I think, anyways. Now, I swear that's crooked. Let me look at it on one of these little dotted lines. Sorry if I put my head in the way for a minute, but it lines up on the line. I don't know. It seems crooked to me. Okay, we have our front and back pieces together, and I'm going to simply do a blanket stitch. That's my intention anyways, up along the edge. I think I'm just going to use 3 strands. I feel like 6 maybe is too thick. I'm going to move back down here. First things first, let's put a few pins in here so it doesn't move all over the place on us. You don't need to do very many. I just do a center, one on the edge, you know, one on each corner or near each corner. Okay. And I'm not sure if I finished this thought or not, but I feel like if I do 6 strands, it'll be too thick. Maybe not. Maybe I should do 6 strands. That might close up the sides nicely. Now, if I can get my 6 strands into my needle. Put a little wax on here. That always helps. Usually helps. I shouldn't say always, because whenever I say always about something, it doesn't go that way. It did help that time. Woohoo! And I really should have, this is a rather short piece of thread, but I'm just going to use it. And I'll have to rethread. All right, so when you do your first stitch for something like this, it doesn't typically matter where you start, but you're gonna just come out. You don't want to just go up from the bottom, because then of course you're going to have a stitch on the bottom, or a knot on the bottom, I should say. So just come out. Closely to the edge. Tuck in your tail if you have one. And then just do your typical blanket stitch. I'm just going to go over one. And you're just going to come out the bottom. And now because that ending, see how it has a little bit of a V? It's created a V. When you take your last stitch, you're going to go in here and grab it and go straight down, and that'll straighten it out so it looks like all the other stitches. I'm going to stay pretty close to the edge, not go too far in. And we'll just stitch along until we run out of time. Because really, you probably don't need me to show you this whole edge, but I shall. It shouldn't take too long. This is something that I could stitch on my lap and find it a bit easier, but I won't do it. And you see how it makes a nice, it closes that end up just so nicely? Or the edges up nicely, not the end. Ends, edges, what have you. It feels odd to just come straight out the bottom. I'm having trouble getting the rhythm of it. It feels like I should be a little bit more careful in what I'm doing, and rather than just going down and coming out. I feel like you can't do it one-handed for some reason. Is anyone else being affected by this big weather system that's moving across the country? They said it was a coast-to-coast weather system. It'll be a nor'easter when it hits here, I want to say tomorrow night, I think. Not in the form of snow, in the form of rain, but I guess it's supposed to be pretty intense here. I gotta get those swirls out of there. It is quite a cold day here, and it stayed dark here until 8:10 this morning. It was crazy. It was like it was 9 o'clock in the evening, and it was 8 o'clock in the morning, and then all of a sudden the skies lightened and dawn finally came. I feel like that's a little... The anal part of me is bothered by the slight looseness in this, but I'm going to not stress about it. I've gotten out of the habit of making sure everything is pulled tight, and now I've got some looseness there, which is why I typically take a stitch and go like this and make sure it's pulled, but you know, working along, I forget to take all my precautions and things get a little sloppy. But anyways, back to the weather system. We've had some extremely heavy rain here this morning. At one point I thought it was snowing because it was raining so heavy that it looked like it was coming down white. But I was disappointed when I went outside and realized it was just rain. There. Those are nicer, tighter stitches. Of course, I'm still going to have those somewhat loose stitches there, so that's going to bother me. But it will all work out. If you pull this way and make sure this is nice and tight, it just makes for neater stitches. I find, anyways. So you don't have any stragglers. All right, I don't think I can go too much longer with this piece of thread. I'm gonna end up unthreading. Oh, well, see, there you go. Which actually is a good thing to happen because I did that on purpose, I should tell you guys. Usually when you're finishing a piece, of course you don't want, like I mentioned when we started, you don't want any knots or strings or anything showing. So you got to leave yourself a little bit extra length to get rid of so that you can tuck it in nicely. So this is what I typically do. And this might be crazy. People might think this is odd, but this is just what I do. Separate my strands. Do a double knot because you don't want it to come apart, and these will not show, so don't worry. And then I open it up and I just put them inside. Put them down, they're inside, and then I'll just start again just like I did down here. Gotta gather up some thread. And once again, I shook the camera, so I apologize for that. You can just imagine the nasty comments I'm going to get on YouTube. I can't watch your videos, they're too shaky. Oops, let me see here. This is quite a long piece, but I'm going to try to work with it because that would be nice. We wouldn't have to keep taking the time to thread and rethread. And I'm going to wax this whole piece because I think that was part of the problem with the loose threads is it wasn't, waxing really does help keep things nice and smooth. It's just hard to work with at first because at least it happens to me. It's a little hard to pull through my needle at first. Of course, it would help if I used a larger headed needle, but probably be a lot quicker for us too if I didn't try to shove these 6 strands into this tiny needle. But you know, I got to make things difficult for myself, or what would life be? All right, there we go. Make a small knot, and you probably could get away with no knot because you're tucking it in, but to be safe, do a little knot. Pull it nice and tight so it's tiny. Oh, goodness. I may regret these teeny tiny, or this big, huge length of thread. What am I trying to say? All right, so when you go back in, this is how I do it. I will go so that it catches that loop. Because if you don't, then you're going to have another V situation on your hand. So this is now when you have to catch this. So go up through here carefully because you don't want to pull anything apart and shred it. So you're just going to go up through that loop that you just finished with. Tuck it in. So you won't want to pull your knot all the way to there. You just tuck it in. It's going to feel a little bit loose, but it's okay. And then you're going to just start your stitch right here and come out the bottom. See, I'm already regretting this 7 miles of thread because it's already got caught on something. All right, there we go. The only thing I don't like about the wax is you'll get to a point where there's bits of wax everywhere, and I don't like how that looks. But just put it somewhere warm. You know, don't, good gracious, I gotta move this ruler. It's getting in my way. You know, if you put it somewhere warm, they'll melt down into the piece, or take a little brush and brush them off. And we continue on. What a difference you can tell, like this is unwaxed, this is waxed, and I feel like the wax just lays down so much nicer. Now this piece, I'm going to want to hang, I believe. I may lay her over the back of a chair, but I may hang her. So what I was thinking for that, to hang her, so we'll finish her all around like I am now, the same way. Then I thought I would make some sort of little, I'm not sure if it would be called a pocket, but a little bit, I'm going to stitch some fabric right here that I can then run a little wooden dowel through, if that makes sense to you. So you just put a strip of fabric here, stitch it down, and then slide your dowel through. You could also not get that fancy and just simply lay your dowel here, stitch around it so that it's there, or put a couple of fabric loops right up here. Oh, maybe that's what I'll do. Just stitch a couple little wool pieces so it would form. I should probably do those before I close it up. So you could, let me turn it around so you can get what I'm getting at. So you would just simply take a scrap of fabric, put it down in, and create, you would do 2 of these and create little loops. Or you could close it completely up, which I think that's what I'm going to do. And then add the loops. And then you could run a little dowel through here to hang it with. So I'm going to leave that part up to all of you. We'll finish her by way of closing the piece up completely, but as far as how you wish to display it, that will be totally up to you. I would love it if you shared how you completely finished it with me, if you wanted. But you could use her as a little table mat. You could put her in a frame, or you could add the loops or what have you and hang her on the wall. Or, do whatever you like with her. I don't mean to tell you how to display her and finish her, but these are just suggestions. I don't want to leave you with, just the top done and not give any suggestions as to finishing, so. Ooh, just poked myself. I didn't really want these side stitches to show all that much, so I kept it close to the edge, but I kind of wish I'd gone in a little bit further. I think that would have looked nice. Oops, down to the corner, make sure I'm on screen here. I get going along and forget to check that. All right, so we've got a corner here. So this corner well, I am going to. I think you should probably, to make the corner so it keeps its, let me see how I should do this one. All right, I think I'm going to take one more stitch in this direction. See what I mean about I feel like there's never a tried and true every corner method. I always feel like you just have to take it as it comes. And now I'm going to take this one and go way down here. I mean, there's basically a way you approach it, but I feel like every corner is a guessing game. Of course, I got one loose thread, gonna make the whole thing look off. There we go. All right, and then I'll turn and start again. And of course, there's one loose thread going to make it look sloppy. There we go. And it keeps your corner quite nice, I think, anyways. I have not eaten yet today, and all of a sudden I am feeling quite hungry. Some people do this edging, I guess you would call it, edge finishing, with yarn. That would work as well. I also feel like maybe some Valdani, the pearl cotton, maybe the size 5 would work beautifully, because then you wouldn't have that thread separating issue that you get with the different strands. See what I mean right there? If you don't keep track of it, it would really show, I think. I don't know if anybody else has to do that when they do the blanket stitch, but more often than not, I have to face this direction, then pull it back. My stitches are just not neat if I don't do that. See, piece of wax. We'll have to fleck that out later. If I use the tip of my needle sometimes and just pick at it, it'll get a hold of it and get rid of it. I feel like my stitches are all different lengths here on this edge, but you know, I really can't see them that well. The colors are blending into each other. Well, they're pretty much the same color, but different tones of black, so. Which, you know, if you're gonna have uneven stitches, it's always handy if you, if your stitches are uneven, it's handy to have the similar colors because then it really doesn't show that much. There we go. I better be a little bit more careful. I'm buzzing along at a pretty good clip and I'm gonna end up having issues. Like right now where I can't seem to loosen my thread. There we go. You can see it better on the back. It looks lovely on the back. it just blends in so much with the front that you don't see it as much. I do love this background though. All right, another corner. Gotta be careful with this one. I don't want to fray it. Well, I have to be careful with all the corners, but that one felt a little bit loose right there, so. There's a loose piece. There we go. I had to pull that out because my corner it was not going in the direction it was supposed to go. There we go. Okay. See, corners are a challenge. You just have to take them as they come. Do your best. get some shape in them. Oh, I don't know if you could hear that, but my stomach is beginning to grumble. Subjecting to not having eaten yet. So you can take that out now. I lost some of my wax, so my thread is going to start separating. My fingers are starting not to want to work here. Maybe I'm having one of those older person moments where the weather is affecting my joints, which actually happens more often than not, but sometimes these small needles and whatnot really are hard on my hands. Getting down to the wire here. Going to have to knot it off in a minute. Yes, I believe that's going to be it for this one. All right. Separate the threads. Oh, hold on a second. Oh. Make the little knot. And tuck it in. We're really moving right along. Except I'm missing plus. All right, here we go. Sorry, I'll try to be quick with this. Should have had it a little bit more prepared. And because my fingers aren't wanting to work, this is going to hassle me coming out of here. There we go. Try to be quick, but I can't have this all knotted up. If I don't separate it now, I'll lose it all, and I don't want to waste it. Okay, let's see now. A good long piece, but not overly long. I'm coming. I'm coming. Hold on. I'm just separating it. I'm almost there. Whew. I didn't think I was going to get it. There we go. Set that aside. This is why I end up with wax all over my piece, because I hold it over it. I'm going to use the other end because I waxed that a little bit better. And then, of course, it sticks to your fingers and you pull it right out of your needle again. There we go. Small knot. You can probably hear that, but that's the phone ringing. Remember to go in under that loop that you just ended. Tuck your tail in. And keep and continue going. There we go. Oops. I feel like that answering machine is on particularly loud. There we go. Wax on my fingers. Oops. Probably should check and make sure I'm in where I'm supposed to be. In the frame. As you can see, remember I mentioned the other day that I wasn't going to give her a mouth. Then I thought, well, yes, I will give her a mouth. I keep going back and forth. Today, I don't think she's going to have a mouth. She's a quiet pumpkin lady. I think it's because I aspire to be quieter myself. So I tend to not give my designs a mouth. It's just something that I just always struggle with it. When I draw them, I can give them a mouth now, which for years I wasn't able to do. I never could draw a mouth. Now I can. But yeah, I guess it's probably just, I just don't feel comfortable enough in my ability to stitch a mouth. But as you remember from our past videos, it didn't look right to me. But I think a very thin one would look cute right about here. But when I put a very thin one right about there, I didn't like how it looked. Make sure I move this up to the frame. Hold on. Just gonna grab my cup here real quick. Hopefully if I fill my stomach up with water, you won't hear it growling and objecting. I'm really hoping I have enough thread on my needle to finish this, but should be. But one never knows. Often shoulds don't come about. Well, that little pin looks adorable right there. Maybe I'll give her a little brooch. Probably should close this up so that I don't slice my arm open. I'm going to try a little something. I'm going to try going back here and coming out right here with the corner. So not fully on the bottom. I've caught the bottom layer, but I didn't come out entirely on the bottom. See if that makes a difference with making a little bit nicer corner. Yes, it does seem to. Sure, now I learn it. I try it out and it works. Now I think of it. There, that makes for a nicer corner. It lays down a bit better than the one up above does. The wind is really starting to blow here. Perhaps the nor'easter is moving in quicker than they thought. Yeah, I'm definitely not going to have enough thread to finish this piece with this one that's, of course, it'll probably be really close to the end and I'll have to rethread my needle again. Put you guys through all that drama. Probably should check and see what time it is, but it doesn't really matter at this point because we are so close to the end that I am just going to keep going. It sticks together and then you can't get your needle to move. There we go. I don't know if you guys can hear the wind chimes, but they are blowing around and making all sorts of noise. All right, I'm going to make that my last stitch with this bit of thread. If I don't, I'll just end up struggling with it. It's actually worked out quite nicely. There's no bubbles in here, no curling. I shouldn't have said that before I was fully done because we still could mess everything up completely, but let's hope that doesn't happen. Oh, Judy, you gave yours an antique button on the shawl. That is an excellent idea. I think I would like to look for like a little pewter button. I love pewter. See if I can find a little pewter something or other to stitch on there. Or maybe a tiny little rusty bell. There we go. Tuck that in. There's probably an easier way to join these up, but I don't know it if there is. I feel like I really could have made that knot a little bit bigger, but it's all right. It's all good. There we go. There's so much wax on that end, it's a little bit difficult to smooth out, but probably most people stitching this with me finished before I did because we had that little bit of a leeway where I couldn't film and then we went away for the weekend. But that's okay. Judy, you thought a sweet acorn charm would work too? Oh gosh, yes. Wouldn't that be adorable, a little acorn charm? Aw, that's a great idea. Excuse me. As I mentioned, we went away this weekend. Mark and I took a late anniversary trip. Oh my gosh, we had such a wonderful time. We ate, we visited some distilleries and a brewery, ate again, went for walks, relaxed. It was so much fun. But we went up to the middle of Vermont, Middlebury, Vermont, which is just an hour from here. But it was shocking how much more color they still have up there on their trees than we do. They even had some trees that hadn't even changed fully yet. It was so beautiful. I love Middlebury. It's a beautiful little town. But it was nice because we were worried we weren't going to catch the color and we might get up there and all the trees would be off, or all the leaves would be off the trees. I mean, not that we needed to catch the color because, of course, we have the color here, but our trees, our leaves, I don't know what my problem is with saying that today, our leaves are very much blown off the trees at this point. We have a lot of bare branches, which is typical for this time of year. It's unusual that there in Middlebury and probably parts of northern, boy, that corner is so much easier doing it that way. Other parts of Vermont still have their leaves on their trees. But we went, we ate all our meals out, obviously, when you're away. That's what you do. But I had one evening for dessert, I had maple creme brulee. Oh my heavens. It was so, so amazing. I've had creme brulee before, but this was the best I have ever had. It was scrumptious. So now I've set myself out to learn how to make it. Gonna need a little blowtorch type of thing so I can brulee the sugar. All right, so now here we are at the end. And like I said, let me push this down. Phyllis, your leaves seen late this year? Ours were late arriving. Our color was late arriving, for sure. And we haven't had a frost yet, which is super unusual. All right, so what you want to do is, this was our first stitch. And remember how I said it looked somewhat like a V? It's probably hard for you to tell, but you just want to go into that stitch. Go into that stitch, poke it down through the bottom. Pull it straight down. And it makes it look exactly like the others. Of course, there's a little bit of wax there, so it might be hard for you to tell. And then you're going to simply make a little bit of a knot here. Don't get crazy because you don't want a big hump right here. Make a knot if you can. Do it without making a mess and having all sorts of mess. There we go. Make your knot and then just go in between the two layers. Keep your needle in between the two layers. Don't come out the front, don't come out the back yet. Just go in there just a little bit and then come out somewhere a little bit farther on. Hold the two pieces together while you do this because you don't want to yank this really badly. So hold your two pieces together just until it meets right there and is pulled fully through, and then cut it. Because you've got your knot there on the edge and you've pulled it through the end through a little bit. And we are done. Look at this cutting board is such a mess. I'm sorry. I'll show that to you. We are done. I love her. Let me move her away and shake her, get some of that stuff off. I absolutely love her. I hope you guys do too. I'm going to stand up here so I can make sure you can. More bare branches in Maine than leaves, Judy? Yes, it's that way here right now. But, you know, other places not far away still have their leaves on their trees. So it's been an odd year. All right, let's see. She looks good. I'm going to just give her a pull here on the corners. Make sure she's nice and even. And she is done. She looks a little bit crooked, but she's not. You just got to, you know, sometimes you pull a stitch tighter in one area than you do in the other. So just go along, pull here and there, even her all out. And she is finished. I'm quite pleased with her. I wish I didn't have her on this grid thing because it's making her look all crooked, and she's not. So we are going to pull this grid out of here. But we don't have to look at it. Remove this. There. She is lovely. Bear with me for a moment. I'm going to lift this up. Hopefully I won't mess everything up. Stay tuned. I'm going to try to get this pulled in so that it looks... Oh, I'm going to knock everything down. Have a heck of a time. One moment. I've almost got it. Sorry for all the jostling. Just want to get this whole area into the... Throw this stuff on the side so you don't have to look at it. Dropping everything. There. Now you can see her fully. She doesn't look all crooked and wonky. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed stitching this little project with me. I had a lovely time. Now our next project, I don't have an exact date yet, but when I will be releasing the video, this next project I'm going to, well, first let's say goodbye to the pumpkin lady and her little turkey. She is done. This is her back. You can see the stitches a little bit more on the back. Okay, she is done. So our next project is this guy, Old Father Christmas. I might make him into a door pocket. He can be found, and I'll do a separate little video with all the details on him and put it on YouTube. But this guy, Old Father Christmas, is going to be done a little bit different. I'm not going to do the Facebook Lives for this video, for Old Father Christmas. I'm going to film those with my camera, upload everything to YouTube, and then you can watch, they'll all be there at the same time, and you can watch them as you wish. And if you wanted to watch them all in one day, you can do that however you like. So it'll just be better, and you won't have to be waiting on me to film in case I have an issue one day and can't come film. So I just thought it would be smoother, and it'll be easier for me as well. So this guy, Old Father Christmas, his template can be found in my newest book of templates called Life in Our Little Brown House. I'm not going to have his template separate. If you want him, you'll have to purchase the book of templates. There's 12 other designs in that book. I really need to lock that down so I don't have to keep guessing on that. But I believe there's 12 other templates in there, and I'm going to be stitching over the course of the next how many months, at least 6 months, if not more. I don't have an end date for this Stitch With Me series. I want to work through quite a few of my designs, several of which will be from this book of templates. So, you know, if you're hesitant to buy it, don't think that it's going to be just the one project that I do. I'm going to do several projects from that book. This guy first, and then this will be the November project. The December project, I believe I'm going to do my old Sturbridge stocking. That I will offer as it's an individual template. That's from one of my older books, but I also have that as a pattern, just a regular punch needle pattern. So you might even already have it because that's several years old. You might even have this guy, but because he is from one of my original designs for punch needle, but I revamped this guy for the book of templates. So he's a little bit more refined, and his bag is a little different. His shape is a little bit different, but he's similar to the old Father Christmas that I did originally, so you could probably make it work. It just wouldn't look exactly like this guy. So I'll give more details and do a separate video on that next November project. And I'll post that for November 1st and give a date as to when I will have them. I'm thinking probably around the 15th of November is when I'll have them ready to put up. Knock on wood. Okay, so I think that's it, everyone. If you have any questions or felt like I left something out, or maybe I did leave something out, but anyways, if you had any questions or anything, or just wanted to say hello, blah, 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 feel free to leave me a comment here, or you can leave it over on the YouTube channel. I'll get this uploaded hopefully by 7 o'clock. It's been going okay for me here from home, so I'm hoping that keeps up. If not, I'll have to run over to Paulette and do it over there at my sister-in-law's house. But anyways, thank you all so much for joining me. I've had a lovely time stitching this with all of you, and we'll see you in November. Have a great day, everyone.